What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new to the channel, first things first, thank you for clicking on the video, and for my subscribers, thank you for clicking on the video. But if you are new to my channel, I go over editing tips. I also go over camera related things, and I like to vlog a lot. But today's video is actually going to be about color grading. Yay! All right, so let's get into this. Let's get going with this. I have Premiere already set up. Let's bring out the scopes as well too. And I have 3 different examples of what I want to show you guys. And the reason why I have 3 examples is because I have 3 different types of ethnicities. I have a Caucasian male, a Hispanic male, if it loads. Will it load? I have a Hispanic male, and I also have myself being an African American male. I don't know why it's being slow, but the reason why I have these options is because not all are gonna look the same. So it's not a one size fit all type of thing, being the fact that skin tones are going to be completely different or slightly different in some cases, but again, not all of them are going to be the same. There's no one size fit all. So let's get into it. I want to start off with my first example, that being the Caucasian male. And for starters, what I want to say is that I shot this on a Sony a5100 using a 50mm 1.8 lens. For anybody out there who's curious on knowing what I used for that shot, the next 2 shots were actually going to be used on a Canon EOS R-P with the Sigma 18-35 1.8 lens. But let's go over the first one here, and I will show you how I color grade my footage. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to go into color. I'm already on the color tab here. So first things first, what I'm going to do is actually bring down that exposure. I'm going to drag it slightly down until I see what I like. And as you can see, as I'm moving it down, look at my lumetri scopes over here. My whites are going down as I bring my exposure down. So dragging that down a little bit, and what it's starting to look like is actually it's starting to look like it was shot in some type of log format. So whenever you're shooting in a log format, it looks pretty washed out and very dull and very boring. So what you're going to want to do is actually bring in the color, so color being saturation, and we'll get to that. What we're going to do next is actually going to the curves, and we're going to bring down the shadows because it still seems, albeit bright. Okay, we're going to bring down the shadows just a tad bit and slightly raise the highlights a little. Go back to the basic correction. We're going to go into the whites. We're going to slightly bring those down. And you're starting to see more of his skin complexion pop out a little bit more. Okay, and we're going to go down to our highlights right here. We're also going to bring that down. Next, what I'm going to want to do is actually go to the saturation, and we're going to boost that. It's at 100 right now. We're actually going to boost that to 125. Now, again, you can't just throw 125 on anybody's skin tone and just think that that's going to be okay. The reason why I'm going 125 is because he is a Caucasian male on the lighter side. If I were to do that for myself, it would look a lot different. I can tell you that right now. But let's go back into this. We're going to use 125, and you can see the color coming back. Next, what I'm going to do is actually go to my creative tab, and I actually have a LUT that I made myself. It's very versatile, being the fact that I can actually use this LUT being inside, outside as well too. They work both ways. It just, you might have to tweak it just a little bit. And you guys can actually create your own LUT and then save it as a preset. In a different video, I'll show you how to do that, but let's just move on with this. And I titled it John's LUT. Actually, you need to make sure I'm under the right tab. John's LUT. I'm going to go ahead and bring that in there. And as you can see, it looks a little bit more blue. So what we're going to do is actually go back to the basic correction. Actually, let's go back to the creative tab and actually bring that from 100 down to 85. Okay, now we're going to go back to basic correction, and with the temperature, since it's more on the blue side, we're actually going to bring it back to the oranger side to make it look more natural. So we're going to go ahead and slide that over. Then we're going to go back into our shadows and then just drop that a little bit. Going back to the saturation, I do want to bring that up a little bit more, so I'm actually going to go 128. And then go back to our highlights, bring it down just a little bit more. And right then and there, I'm actually satisfied with the look that it's giving. Just to give you an example of what it looked like before, this is what it looked like, where it looked completely blown out, distorted, and just out of character. And then you can bring some life back into it, just how I taught you guys right now, with those simple steps, and it comes out to looking like this. Okay, so moving on to our next one, this is where we have my friend Mario. And what's nice is that with this look that we're given already, it actually looks pretty good, and there's actually not a lot to change about this. Usually I'll start off with a basic correction, then I'll work my way into adding a LUT. But this time I'm actually going to reverse it by doing the LUT first and then going to the basic correction, being the fact that there's not a lot to work with this shot. One thing I can actually point out is that the highlights need to be brought down. But again, let's start off with the LUT this time. Go to Browse. Go ahead and add that in there. What we're going to do is actually drop that intensity from 100 down to, let's say, 70. Yeah, I like that a lot. So showing you really quick, this is without the LUT, and this is with the LUT. Now a lot of people would just slap a LUT on there and then just say, hey, you know what, my footage looks great, that's it, I don't need to do anything else. But when you really want to have a fantastic look to your image and you care about your image quality, it's not just about slapping a LUT on there and then just calling it a day. There are basic corrections that you need to do. That's why there is a tab that is literally called basic correction. So let's go into the basic correction. And what I'm going to do is actually, like I talked about with the highlights, I'm actually going to bring the highlights slightly down. And then I'm going to raise the shadows just a little bit. I'm going to go to my whites and I'm going to bring those down as well too. And then with the saturation, I'm actually going to boost it to 110. All right. And that's pretty much that's all I need to do with this one. Like I said, this shot was already looking good straight out of the camera. And what I'm going to do is show you the before and after. So this is what it looked like before, and this is what it looked like after we color corrected it and color graded it. All right. And then moving on to the last clip, which is going to be myself. Let's get into this one here. And what I'm going to do is actually raise the exposure just a little bit on this one here. And then I'll move into I'm actually going to go to my curves and boost my highlights slightly. And then lower my shadows a tad bit. I think that's actually a little too much, so I'm actually going to redo that on the shadows. And that's better. Alright, so now we're going to go back to basic correction. And we're actually going to go to the shadows and raise them as opposed to lowering them. Okay. With the whites, I'm actually going to raise them as well. Alright. And now what I'm going to go do is actually go into my my creative tab, go to browse, drop a LUT in there. Go ahead and drop that in there. And what it gives is somewhat more of like a cinematic feel, but I don't want that cinematic feel to be so intense. So instead of being at 100, I'm actually going to drop this one down to about, let's start off with 50 and see how it goes from there. So with that, and then without, and that's at 50, I will actually raise that to 65. And that looks good to me there. And what we're going to do is go back to the basic correction, and we're actually going to go to temperature, bring it back to our orange side here, and then go into our saturation and put that at 108. Right. And I'm liking how it looks. Like, there's not much that I can change with this. Again, this is another shot that was coming out of the Canon with the Sigma 18-35 1.8 lens. That's that is definitely beginning to be one of my favorite lenses. And again, I am satisfied with the way that this actually came out. So to show you from the beginning of what it looked like without color correcting or color grading it, this is what it looked like, and with the finished product, that is how it came out to be. So alright, so let's go ahead and do a run through on the video clips that I showed you. So without the effects and the color grading and the color correcting that we did on the first clip, this is how it looked, and this is how it turned out. On the second clip that we did with Mario, this is how it looked, and this is how it came out. And then on the last one with myself, this is how it looked originally, and this is how it came out. But that is how I color correct and color grade my videos. If you guys like the video, go ahead and hit a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. Other than that, you guys have a good day.